Joined by Democratic Congressman Roy Khanna of California, who sits on the House Oversight Committee. Mika Ouyang, Vice President of the National Security Program at the Third Way. Charlie Sykes, Editor-at-Large at The Board. Thank you, Charlie. Let me go to the Congressman here. It seems to me that this is all focused on one question, the quid pro quo. The president was conditioning U.S. military aid. He was conditioning a meeting at the White House. All the things he had at his disposal on that government and that president, at least saying he was investigating Joe Biden. Just saying it.
Well, Chris, you are absolutely right. This is really simple. I mean, the president withheld aid, and he was asking Zelensky to do a public press conference saying that he was going to investigate Joe Biden. It's clear what he wanted. Biden was winning in the polls at the time. He wanted to tarnish Biden.
He's winning again in one of the polls, despite your guys' efforts.
Well, I mean, and he views Biden as a threat, and that's what this is about. It's not complicated, and that's why the majority of the country now supports impeachment.
Mika, let me look at some of this other stuff. How about with John Bolton? One of the great ironies in our, the old phrase was politics make strange bedfellows. Think about John Bolton, the ultimate hawk, coming to the argument that this president doesn't deserve to stay in office.
Yeah, look, John Bolton has always had his own point of view on these things, and he's somebody who's not really going to bend to a particular team in terms of loyalty. He's pursuing his own ends, and the president should have known that when he hired him. But what's interesting about Bolton is that he has, throughout this process, been encouraging people inside, when they have objections to what's going on, to make a record, right? He's telling people, go talk to the lawyers, make sure you get it down on paper, record all the stuff. And now all that evidence is coming forward and be brought forward to the House investigators.
So while he was working for Trump and seeming to be his loyalist, he was building a case.
That's right. And we've seen Trump over and over again face note takers as part of his problem, from Jim Comey to Bolton.
You know, Charlie, this president hates people that have regular lives and know how to keep notes, keep regular hours, do the job, keep notes. In other words, document what they do. That's sort of the formal federal employee, actually, the civil servant who wants to make sure he's dotted all the I's and crossed the T's. But here's John Bolton, a well-known hawk, a neocon, if you will, I guess, although maybe I've always been a con. And now he is probably the most respected person in this whole loop in terms of ensuring national security and being the one who would really blow the whistle on a president who wasn't putting national security first.
Yeah, and you would have credibility with Senate Republicans who, of course, are going to determine what happens to the president. And, you know, you think about this last week, it's kind of a microcosm of the entire Trump presidency. You know, whether you're talking about Ukraine, you're talking about Syria, you're talking about the testimony of Bill Taylor lashing out at people as human scum, sicking the Department of Justice on political opponents. And then at the end of it, basically saying, I don't need a team, I end the team. So if you are a Republican senator and you're looking at this, are you thinking that anything is going to get better? Are you thinking that really that you want to stake your political future on this guy? Because what he signaled is you're seeing all of it. You're seeing the corruption, the recklessness, the narcissism, and you're also seeing a determination that, yeah, he doesn't think that he actually needs to get his act together, and you're going into an impeachment trial, which became a dead certainty this last week.
Charlie, you're onto something. Who's going to grieve the departure of Donald Trump from the White House? Who's going to grieve it?
Well, see, this is the problem. Republicans are being told it would be a disaster if you voted to remove him. But the reality is, can you imagine the national relief the national relief of his departure, but also for Republicans who have to start calculating how much more political capital are they going to have to spend? How many more talking points are they going to have to spew? How many more, convoluted positions are they going to have to take? I mean, right now, they can hide behind process, but you know that it's going to get worse. There's going to be more evidence. There may be more smoking guns. It's going to take place on television. And then you have a president who seems to be escalating every one of his tactics and doubling down on every one of the things that got him to where we are right now.
You know, Mika, I think all the time about the suburban woman and mother in many cases who kids listen to this guy on television. They pick it up. Mommy, can I call somebody human scum? Is that okay? Human scum?
I mean, look, the president is really lowering the level of national discourse. And it was really driven home to me today when you saw the coverage of Elijah Cummings' funeral, the chairman of the Oversight Committee, and how human he was. But when Barack Obama got up there and talked about what it means to be strong and to be kind, and it was such a contrast from a president who used to hold us up to our better angels to a man who just drags us down into the ditch.
Well, we're going to talk about more later, but I'll tell you, I was taken. I'm a romantic about politics, and I've always had mixed views about Bill Clinton, but he was unbelievable today, and so was the president. And I kept thinking, these are presidents raised in Christian traditions with the Old Testament, a big part of their culture, right? They're talking about it, and they actually have some religion in their lives, unlike this president who uses it politically, right? Well, it was nice to hear it.
They were unbelievable because they were talking about an unbelievable man. I mean, I had the honor of serving with Elijah Cummings. And when I was a freshman member of Congress, I remember he was sitting next to me and he said, someone came over and requested a picture. And he said, let me tell you something. I get asked for pictures all the time. And I say, it's my honor. It's my privilege. I'm serving you. Thanks for asking. He was a decent human being. And the fact that Mark Meadows and Jim Jordan were at his funeral says everything you need to know about the man.
And they were real friends.
They were real friends.
I saw the way he put that deal together. Those two guys fighting and the way he solved it that day. It was out of the Bible. Anyway, we're going to talk a lot more about him later in the show. Anyway, as House Democrats barrel towards impeachment, a new NBC poll shows American people still divided. No surprise. Asked if President Trump should be impeached and removed from office. The response is 49-49, for and against. Broken down by party, it's 9 out of 10 Democrats say yes, we impeach the guy and get him out of here. 9 out of 10 Republicans saying don't impeach him, keep him here. Here's an interesting one, maybe the tiebreaker. 53%, a majority of independents say the president should be impeached and removed. 53%. That's significant, right? Charlie, what do you make of that number? It used to be that independents were former Republicans when I was growing up. That was just another word for former Republicans. What are they now? Who are they?
Yeah, I don't know. People who are probably discussing with both political parties, but I think the numbers to look at there are number one, how solid is the Republican support, and it's still holding. But also, what do the state-by-state polls look like for those senators who might be on the bubble, who might be saying privately that if there was a secret ballot, they'd vote to remove him, but don't want to break with them. So right now, the politics would suggest that it's going to be very unlikely for Republicans to break. The thing to watch, though, is the direction. As I mentioned before, what else are we going to see? And particularly when these hearings go onto television, when you have an actual impeachment trial, when even the viewers of Fox News have to look at the evidence, when Republicans can't hide behind process and people begin to see this pattern of corruption, will that move those numbers? And it's hard to imagine that they're going to move them in Donald Trump's direction.
Would you move it to prime time, those hearings, if you could? Charlie?
Yes, if that's an option. Look, if you're going to put it on TV, you might as well go all the way.
You know, we play baseball at night for a reason, not because it's nicer to play baseball in the dark. It's because people are watching television at night. Right. Anyway, let me ask you, Amika, what do you think about that? Moving these in the trial of the century, this new century, for prime time. Let the senators vote in prime time.
So I think that the coverage will happen and it'll get covered in prime time regardless of whether or not they do it in the middle of the day or not. And I think the question for Nancy Pelosi is who's really your audience here? Are you trying to convince the members in the chamber? Are you trying to convince the nation? I think the replay will happen regardless. I don't know that it matters that much that it's in prime time or not as long as you have the video.
Just remember, Anita Hill testified in the daytime. Clarence Thomas testified at night. Who won? Meanwhile, another central figure in the impeachment probe is speaking with reporters right now unintentionally. I don't know this term, but I'm learning it. Giuliani, here it is, butt-dialed. NBC News reporter Rich Shapiro last week. The two had already spoken earlier that day, but around 11 p.m., get the time of day, Giuliani accidentally followed up with a, quote, message exactly 3 minutes long. The words tumbling out of Giuliani's mouth were not directed at the reporter Shapiro. He was speaking to someone else, someone in the same room. Well, this isn't the first time that Giuliani accidentally or butt-dialed someone, a reporter. A few weeks earlier, he did the same thing, this time railing against the Bidens. Let's listen.
I expected it would happen. The minute you touch on one of the protected people, they go crazy. They come after you. You got the truth on the side, which is very powerful. Most powerful weapon. Yeah, there's 20 more to come out.
Guys, what do you make of this? These things, they follow a pattern when people's lives are somewhat disorganized.
Well, I'll tell you what bothers people about this. entire episode the most. It's that why do you have people like Rudy Giuliani conducting American foreign policy? In the call that's leaked, he's talking about our policy towards Turkey. He's talking about our policy towards Bahrain. And the frontliners, the Democrats who carry Trump districts, who served our country, the reason they've come out is they're so offended that the president's personal lawyer is conducting American foreign policy.
To what effect? To getting the president's dirt.
To getting the president's dirt and to making money. I mean, you know.
Charlie, your thoughts about this? Anything too indecent for the Republicans where they just say, you know what? Imagine Obama doing it. No, it doesn't work. I know it doesn't work with Republicans. Imagine Obama having 3 wives. Imagine him 2 porn stars, blah, blah, blah. Imagine every access holiday. Imagine everything Trump's done. It doesn't seem, the people never do a body check and say, imagine if the guy on the other side of the aisle did this. They don't do it, do they? Charlie?
Well, Chris, it is starting to occur to me that maybe Rudy Giuliani is not that good a lawyer, and that maybe he's not the person that the president ought to be trusting to do all of these things. But yeah, I mean, at this point, he really is a liability to the president. And I thought it was interesting that the president doubled down in his support, full-throated support for Rudy Giuliani. So all those Republicans who are saying maybe we can distance the president from Rudy Giuliani, throw Rudy Giuliani under the bus. No, they're joined at the hip. And again, you know, if you're a Republican United States senator, you're going into this impeachment trial, you know that that's just another one of those wild cards.
I would never blame Rudy more than being Trump's henchman. That's who he is. He's Trump's henchman. Anyway, thank you, U.S. Congressman Ro Khanna of California.